So tired and 3 hours sleep last night. Let's get this done. What is going on, guys? Welcome to this video. My name is Cameron and this is the review for Ultimate Spider-Man issue 107, Ultimate Knights Part 2. And as you can see by the front cover, we've got Spider-Man, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Iron Fist and Shang-Chi. It doesn't matter what the characters are doing on the front cover, but if the characters are on the front cover, it basically means that they're going to make an appearance in the comic. Most of the time. So yeah, let's just run through some of the things that happened in the previous issue, with Kingpin actually returning, and in probably one of the best ways possible, with him finding out that he owns the rights to Spider-Man. Basically meaning he can make money off Spider-Man by Spider-Man just being Spider-Man, so he can sell merchandise, games, etc. And all of those rights go to Kingpin. It's like Spider-Man just can't win. Obviously, speaking of returning characters, we also got the return of J. Jonah Jameson, with him firing Peter Parker, then finding out what happened and then rehiring him again. And obviously J. Jonah Jameson's ego is too big to admit it, but he does actually care about Peter Parker. Now, something that I absolutely loved about the previous issue is that it's shown Peter Parker and Mary Jane reigniting that flame in their relationship, and it was just so cute and adorable to sort of watch unfold on the pages of the comic, especially as a massive Peter Parker and Mary Jane fan. But it did get interrupted by the introduction of Daredevil after he turned up at Peter Parker's school and sort of revealed his identity in the most badass way possible, talking about how he's putting together a team to take down the Kingpin. And then with a seriously crazy twist at the end was Kitty Pryde joining Peter Parker and Mary Jane's high school. Now, the reason why that's important to gloss over that was because this issue that we're about to review right now picks up directly from where Kitty Pryde enters the classroom. So it's going to get really awkward because obviously Peter's ex-girlfriend, who isn't really his ex-girlfriend yet, joins his school. It's going to cause complications. So let's review this issue. Let's do it. So we open up the issue in the exact moment of where the previous issue left off, with Kitty Pryde joining Peter Parker's class, and of course, like, joining his school technically, which is a major thing to happen, especially because Peter hasn't actually officially broken up with Kitty Pryde yet, but she knows that Peter and Mary Jane are back together, and so to be joining the same classroom as not only Peter Parker, but Mary Jane as well is super awkward. Like, as the reader of the comic, you actually feel a little bit like cringed out by it because it's just so awkward. And of course, not to mention, Kitty Pryde is part of the X-Men. She's public to, like, that's public knowledge to basically everyone across the internet, and she's also been on TV back when her and Spider-Man and the rest of the X-Men were trapped on the island on live TV. Now, obviously, when you think back to being in high school, or if you're still in high school, you'll understand this completely. Kitty Pryde has only been in the classroom for like 5 seconds, and she's already garnered so much attention just because she's different from everybody else in there. And of course, it was bound to come up eventually, but the last time Kitty Pryde was in the public eye, it was because she was dating Spider-Man and everything, and Jessica Jones of the Ultimate Universe actually asks Kitty Pryde, is she still dating Spider-Man? All these random questions are being thrown at her about the dating Spider-Man situation, and it's not a very stable subject at the minute, especially because Peter is sat right next to her with Mary Jane, and those two characters have got back together without actually officially telling Kitty Pryde. It's like a really awful and awkward situation, and you can just see how overwhelmed Kitty Pryde is getting with it, and she eventually runs away. And one of the things I really love about this section of the comic is the fact that the teacher in the room slates all of the students for actually putting so much pressure on Kitty Pryde, and I really like that. It shows that obviously he's the grown-up in the room, and you can just see by him doing this that he understands the situation that Kitty Pryde is in right now, from a certain standpoint at least, and he sort of relates to that. And surprisingly, it actually makes me like the Professor as a character, even though we're probably never going to see him again in these comic books. But yeah, really interesting. But anyway, moving further into the comic, it's time for Peter Parker to face the situation that's currently going on between him and Kitty Pryde and take the responsibility for what's happened between them. Now, again, I've got to stress that I feel so bad for Kitty Pryde in this situation. She started at a new school. She's been bombarded with questions about Spider-Man, especially when she's very clearly still upset with the whole situation because it's still going on. As a reader of the comic and the Ultimate Spider-Man series, you've come to love Kitty Pryde so much throughout the last couple of like 20 issues or however long she's been here, and for her to be treated so badly just really hits you in the heart. It's so sad. Now, in terms of what we're seeing unfold on the pages right now, I really like how Brian Michael Bendis has handled it, he's written it, because looking on the situation, Kitty Pryde is right to be really, really mad with Peter Parker. Because I know it's Peter Parker and his Spider-Man is an awesome guy and we like Peter and Mary Jane being together, but Peter really has dealt with this situation so badly, to the point where if it wasn't Peter Parker's Spider-Man, I would actually hate his character at this moment in time. Something that I did like during this confrontation though was when Peter actually told Kitty Pryde that he didn't want her to erase Aunt May's memory of him being Spider-Man. And I feel that's really important as a character for Kitty Pryde, especially to hear Peter Parker say that, because it means that Professor X was right when he declined Kitty Pryde's actions against that. And overall it shows just sort of how separate Kitty and Peter are, like they're not really on the same wavelength exactly, because Peter knew he had to take responsibility for that, whereas Kitty was full on like surprised that Peter was saying that. Like, she thought that he would be completely for it, and obviously not. Again though, I do have to address the fact that Peter does know that he's done something really bad and feels so sorry for it. Like, you can just see, like, obviously it's on his mind. I'm glad Brian Michael Bendis is bringing this up throughout the comic, sort of knowing that it's playing on Peter Parker's mind. And it's also very understandable why Kitty Pryde is sort of acting out the way she is, sort of like running off away from Peter and everything. But that whole situation between Peter and Kitty does actually get resolved within like the next issue or the next few issues with a very special moment, and I actually really like it, so I can't wait for you guys to get to it. But let's just keep moving on throughout the issue. So obviously we had Daredevil in the previous issue approach Peter talking about a meeting that he was putting together to kill the Kingpin. And so in true Spider-Man fashion, he shows up there, and you can see that we've got Moon Knight, we've got Doctor Strange, we've got Iron Fist, and of course Iron Fist's partner Shang-Chi. And I think one of the funniest moments in the entire issue was when Spider-Man was actually questioning if Daredevil does actually have powers, and then immediately, like 2 seconds later, Spider-Man's like, yep, he has senses. I thought that was just really great. It brought like a lighter vibe to the comic, especially because they're about to meet up to talk about killing the Kingpin. It was cool. But I think from the entire issue, this is one of my favourite moments by far, just like what's about to take place with this meeting, because this is the moment where Spider-Man amongst these heroes doesn't really seem like a little kid anymore, because obviously Moon Knight and all these guys are proper men. They see Spider-Man as this young 15-year-old kid, not really taken too seriously, but it's Spider-Man who is the one that is keeping them in check, telling them that killing the Kingpin is the wrong thing to do. And when Daredevil actually challenges him on that, Spider-Man stands up in his face and basically puts Daredevil back in his place, and more or less showing him that even though he is a 15-year-old kid, Spider-Man would probably still wipe the floor with him. Obviously, I'm not saying that Spider-Man could definitely like take down Daredevil or anything, but what I mean is Spider-Man is giving off that impression to the other characters on that rooftop that he isn't afraid to do it if necessary. And I just thought that was so badass of Spider-Man. Out of all the guys there, he's the one who's talking the most sense and sort of telling all of them that they are all superheroes for a reason, not killers. And it was great. But obviously, as we come over to the final page of the comic, we've got the twist at the end with Iron Fist actually selling out all of the other heroes to the Kingpin, all because Iron Fist doesn't want to go back to jail. But I mean, obviously there's got to be more to this twist. Do you think that's actually Iron Fist sat there giving away the secrets of the meeting, betraying all of the other superheroes, or do you think this is part of the plan all along? Let me know what you thought of this issue in the comments below, guys, because that is where Ultimate Spider-Man issue 107 ends. And now we're going to go back on camera and talk about some of the highlights. So let's go. Okay, so that was a pretty big twist. I mean, Iron Fist talking to the Kingpin, betraying the other superheroes. But let's go over to something a little bit more important with Kitty Pryde joining Peter Parker and Mary Jane's high school. What an awkward situation. I mean, it was sort of going alright because joining a new school is already awkward as it is, but it was kind of fairly going smoothly until Jessica Jones asked Kitty Pryde about the Spider-Man relationship. And to think that Peter Parker's Spider-Man is sat right there, knowing full well that he hasn't actually explained anything to her, he's just kind of like broken up with her but not told her that he's broken up with her, and it's just a whole mess. And obviously all the questions started flying. Everybody wanted to know because Spider-Man is the most popular superhero in like whatever the superhero team sort of things are. For Kitty Pryde to be dating the most popular superhero is going to attract some attention, and that's attention that Kitty Pryde really doesn't want to be having right now. Now, as for the moment where Peter actually confronted Kitty Pryde, I think Kitty Pryde has full reason to be mad with Peter Parker. Like, he is straight up doing the complete wrong thing. He's basically broken up with her without telling her that he's broken up with her. It's really crazy. But as I said in my review, something that I thought was really important for Kitty, especially as a character, was hearing Peter Parker say that he didn't want her to erase Aunt May's memory of her finding out that he's Spider-Man, because Kitty Pryde was dead set on thinking that that's what Peter Parker would have wanted, and she sort of more or less took Peter Parker's side on that over being a team with the X-Men, even though Professor X said no. So to hear Peter Parker necessarily agree with Professor X took Kitty by surprise, and it sort of shows just how much of a wavelength they are apart in terms of how they think about things and how they deal with things. Peter knows that he's got to take responsibility for his actions. Kitty doesn't really know that because she's grown up in a school full of people with superpowers. But for the overall argument between those two characters, I was a huge fan of how Brian Michael Bendis wrote that section of the comic. I feel like he really understood the way the Kitty Pryde character sort of acts, and the same with how Peter would sort of respond to her comments. And I think it's very easily justified why Kitty Pryde ran off in such a strop. I do want to say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the whole situation to do with Kitty Pryde and Mary Jane and Peter does get resolved in a really reassuring way. I can't wait for us to get to it, and I know you guys can't wait either. But one of my many favourite moments of the comic was when Spider-Man stood up to Daredevil and basically stood in his face and told him pretty much if he doesn't back off, then Spider-Man is going to have to fight him. And I'm not saying that Spider-Man can take down Daredevil, but when it comes down to it, I feel like Spider-Man could take down Daredevil if he really had to. And basically the whole moment of that situation was just really badass, because you had all these other heroes debating whether to kill the Kingpin, and then you've got Spider-Man, this 15-year-old kid, standing up above them all and telling them that they are wrong. It's just amazing. But I think one of the main things that I like about this overall saga is the fact that we're not really jumping into a big saga straight away. There's nothing super major going on. Kingpin is sort of just doing his own thing. He's not really causing any havoc. It's more like the heroes going after Kingpin so they can do it in their own time. They can slow the pace down a little bit, and I feel like that's important just because we've come out of the Clone Saga where it was really fast paced. It was one thing after another, and the Clone Saga was 8 issues long. So to be able to come out of this, we're sort of dealing with a little bit more of Peter Parker's personal life and him rebuilding that life. It sort of gives the reader a little bit of a break as well. You were probably emotionally scarred from the Clone Saga. It was so good. But to round this issue off, let's just talk about the twist at the end with Iron Fist. Did you guys really see that coming? Iron Fist going to Kingpin and basically betraying all of the other superheroes. And I really like how Kingpin just looks as sinister as ever, sort of knowing that he is the man. He's the Kingpin, and he knows it. Obviously, this is an Ultimate Spider-Man comic. The twists don't necessarily always turn out how they seem, so is Danny Rand actually betraying the other heroes, or is this all part of the plan? You'll have to find out in the next issue. So guys, I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. The issue was awesome. Obviously, the artwork, always awesome. Peter Parker's personal life, dealing with the Mary Jane and Kitty Pryde situation. It got a little bit argumentative, but they pulled through, and of course, in the next few issues, we'll be seeing that actually be full circle completed, and you'll see what I mean. Now guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and reading this issue. I hope you liked it. If you want more, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you thought of this comic in the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. The links are in the description. And I'll see you all in my next video. Thank you and goodbye.